Hello, everyone. I'm John Featherston, founder and CEO of RISMedia. I thank you for joining us today at this important webinar broadcast. However, before we start, a quick reminder for all of you. Our 38th annual RISMedia CEO and Leadership Exchange is really taking shape. It's scheduled for September 30th to October 2nd in Washington, D.C. And this year, one of the most important topics we're going to be addressing is the Beyond the Chatbot. This is incredibly important to all of your businesses. That's just one of the many topics the 120 different panelists, speakers, and experts will be addressing at the CEO Exchange. It is chock full of incredible information that you can take home to make your organizations better going into the new year. So invest in your future, come meet, greet, and network with all of the incredible leaders that are coming to the CEO Exchange in Washington, D.C. I look forward to seeing you there. Take a look at the agenda, take a look at the topics, and take a look at the attendees that you'll be rubbing elbows with. Scan the QR code because it'll give you the information you need to invest in your future and join us at the CEO and Leadership Exchange in Washington, D.C. Thank you and enjoy today's webinar.
Hello, I'm Lennox Scott, your moderator for today's webinar. I always like to start the day out. It's another great day in real estate. And boy, do we have a great panel today, a great topic that really resonates: preventing agent burnout, leadership strategies for sustainable success. And we have a panel of experienced brokers along with MoxieWorks here today, who is supporting the industry. I'd like to welcome Dave, Kendall, and Brian.
Thanks so much, Lennox. My name is David Greenbaum. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at MoxieWorks. I have been managing customer organizations for over 2 decades and have had the honor and privilege of doing so at MoxieWorks for over 7 years now.
Kendall.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I am Kendall Bonner. I am an entrepreneur, former real estate broker owner, former real estate team leader, attorney, speaker, strategist. I've been in the business over 15 years. I've built and led businesses. I love strategy and partnerships. I, of course, love helping agents grow through better leadership, leverage, and technology. My goal is to help people turn their experience into influence and, of course, build legacies and build businesses that truly last. So I'm especially passionate about those things, and I'm excited to be here today and share what I've learned with all of you.
And Kendall, I've enjoyed being on panels with you before. You bring it. Thank you. Brian, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Brian Workman. I'm in Cleveland, Tennessee, which is just outside Chattanooga. I'm the second generation broker owner of our office, which has been around since 1969. I enjoy tech and I enjoy the real estate business. I love being able to marry the two and figure out systems that kind of help our agents be as maximally productive as they can be.
Fabulous. Thank you for being with us today. And I'll just give a little background around John L. Scott Real Estate. This is our 95th year in business. I'm third generation. So, Brian, I got an extra generation ahead. But we're in the states of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and just over the border into California, northern California. My daughter is fourth generation. She's in the company. She's on the way. So I'm very, very excited. Well, let's I want to come back around to Dave just for a MoxieWorks spotlight, and please share some information.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you to everyone for joining us today, and thanks to RISMedia for bringing this whole important conversation together. At MoxieWorks, we spend a lot of time every single day really talking to brokerages and brokerage leaders about how they can make their agents be more productive, how they can make their agents be more successful, but doing so in a way that isn't giving them more tools and adding more complexity and asking them to do more things. And that's why today's conversations about preventing agent burnout is so important. And I'm excited personally to hear the different perspectives from all of you on the panel. And my hope for the people watching is that they get a lot of very clear takeaways that they can take back and really put into practice at their brokerage to empower their agents to have a much better work-life balance and be more successful overall.
Well, fabulous. Well, thank you for being here. I want to get into the question. So we're looking at agent burnout, and I thought that this was an interesting approach because it's so obvious when you see something. Some distinctions come up when you talk about agent burnout. And so let's go to Kendall right now. Is what are the earliest signs that you look for that tell you an agent is heading towards burnout?
Absolutely. And it's a good question to be thinking about because I think that when people don't pay attention, they miss it, right? And there's signals that are happening around us every single day. And sometimes those signals go right over our head. But I think the biggest thing that we should notice is when an agent is producing a lot of activity, but not necessarily any productivity, right? Or effectiveness. They're not seeing the return on investment of the time and energy that they put into what they've been doing. So I think when you see agents working really hard, they're doing lots of activities but not feeling as if they're getting that return, that's probably one of the things that you're looking for. And some of these agents, they'll raise their hand saying they're frustrated. They'll come to us as leaders and say, "Hey, it's not working. Should I pivot? What should I do differently?" They start asking questions, hopefully. And then some others that don't raise their hand, sometimes they quietly disappear. And those are also those agents we need to pay attention to as well.
Yes, definitely. And Brian, there sure seems to be a lot taking place in the industry that can affect an agent's psychologically and maybe head towards burnout. What are some of those items you're feeling right now?
We're still feeling a little bit of the change from the class action lawsuits and just the rule changes. We're going through actually started today an MLS consolidation for our local. So it's just, again, another change. We're in an area that has multiple MLSs. So constantly changing to wind up just having, in essence, the same type of service, just maybe with somebody else, but you've got to go through that process. Um, but as far as, the things that we kind of look for, I'm a big believer in ninja selling. So that garners a lot of the things I do. And a lot of times you talk about ninja selling leadership is doing your rounds. You do your rounds with your agents. You make sure that you're checking in with them, whether they're showing up to the office or not. So calling out, touching the agent, seeing who's not stopping in, who's not checking in with the staff. Um, and who normally would, and then trying to fill those gaps, making sure that we're touching base, we're trying to ask those questions. Why haven't we been able to see you lately? What's going on? What can we help you with? What can we take off of you? What are those things that are happening in your lives that we can help with?
Well, I really like that touching in with the broker associates. So I feel like this seminar has been 4 years, 4 months in the making. Well, the industry changed 4 years ago when interest rates went up. And I checked in with Dr. Lawrence June, the chief economist of the National Association of Realtors. And pre-COVID, we were at 5.3 million transactions, existing home sales on a yearly basis. Right now, for the last 4 years, 4 months, it's been at 4 million, down 25%. And then the market changes just recently. I don't know about your markets, but our markets changed over about the last 10 weeks, and in particular, the last 5 weeks, for sure in the luxury price points, but the intensity is off in the market. So there's other items coming into play in the marketplace. And Dave, I know you're going to be our analyst today, and you're going to be able to share more in later. If there's ever anything you want to speak up on, please jump on it for that. Okay. So how has your approach to preventing burnout impacted your retention and long-term success? Brian, I'm going to start out with you first on this one.
Yeah, so our approach in our office has changed over the years. The software we've used or what services we give the agent are double. But I think it's just been leadership, myself, my dad, other brokers who have always stepped in and try to look at what's coming up. We've got agents, multiple agents who have all gotten their realtor emeritus while at the office. We've got second generation agents behind those that are now where I'm coming up on my 30th year. We've got several other agents in our office that are coming up on their 20th and 15th and 25th that are second generation as well. So we've been able to keep our agents, staff. We've got some that are over 30 plus years, just trying to keep our eyes on what's coming through the horizon, which companies are doing a better job keeping their programs. updated to where it's not only is it fixing what the situation we're in now, but is it going to be a viable solution for the next 5 or 10 years? It's one thing to switch and then have to switch again, and then switch again and switch it again because they're not keeping up. And there's a lot of new talk about consolidation and whether, especially with AI, as to whether a program is actually a program or is it just a feature. And whereas AI has been able to take over a lot of space because they're assimilating a feature into AI and you being able to do it yourself versus a full program or a full suite. So it's trying to be diligent enough to look past, is this just one feature, or is this a suite that we can give a lot of value to our agents, whether they're using all of it or not? If they're using 70%, 60%, 80%, is there enough value there versus just say one feature versus, a multitude?
Great. Well, thank you. Kendall.
For me, I think how you can help prevent burnout is by turning reoccurring work into systems, right? So, I have a pretty simple philosophy. If we're going to do something more than once, we should ask whether it needs a process, right? And then once we decide that a process needs to exist, we build it. And then we ask, does the person we're asking to do this actually need to be the person doing it? Right? So for agents, what can be delegated? What technology can handle it? What AI tool or system can actually process this for you? In fact, we talked about this in the past, Lennox, where I recently did this in my own business in a couple of different ways. I have built SOPs for reoccurring tasks that I personally was doing, like editing videos. I was recording content, editing them, loading them into my YouTube channel, and then eventually into my school community. And I figured out a way where I could literally film the video, load it onto my computer, and then let AI take over to go edit, add the captions, remove the filler words, and change the scenes, do all the different things that I needed done for that particular process, load it into YouTube and post it to school. That activity alone, just that one system being transitioned over to someone else or to something else in this particular case, it saved me hours and hours and hours of time that I got back to work on something that might be more dollar productive for me or something that only I can do. So when we think about systems and we think about all of the activities that we're doing that effectuate the outcomes that we're looking to actually have occur, the things that we need to think about is this something that an SOP can be built and I can transfer it to a virtual assistant? I can turn it over to AI. I can turn it into a workflow that can be accomplished by others. So for me, you must think about it this way. It comes down to 4 words. I think this is a true opportunity to break through on the exhaustion we feel from all the tasks and activities that we're managing, is to systematize. It's like you almost have to slow down to speed up, is what I like to tell people. It's important to slow down so that you can go faster. So the slow down part is systematize. Take the minute to build the system, right? To document it. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist, right? So systematize it, delegate it when appropriate, automate it if possible. And then also the other key thing here that a lot of people miss is eliminate it if it needs to be eliminated. So any repetitive task that we're doing, if we're not asking, should I also eliminate this? Do I actually need to be doing this for my business to work effectively? We're missing an opportunity there. And a lot of times we're doing things we don't actually need to be doing or have to do in order to win in any economy.
Boy, Brian and Kendall, we're really setting the foundation. We're starting to dig in here a little bit to specifics for this topic. And I'll just add a little bit into it. We have a statement. While everything continues to change in the market and technology, the core of our business remains the same. And that's the trusted relationship of a competent professional. And it's still moves forward on that. We have a mantra for what we're involved with right now. The previous one was win one more every month. And now we've gone to outperform the market. And so, as Brian was saying, being in that communication and Kendall working on that specific program that would really make a difference in their career. Let's take a look at the next question here. What is one operational change you've implemented that's had the biggest impact on reducing agent stress? Kendall, you're up.
Well, I think that one of the things that leaders should be thinking about is the technology in their world, right? And I think that we need to be thinking differently about how we manage our technology as one of the pillars of our business. So my personal opinion is technology should eliminate work, not simply relocate it from one screen to another screen. So I think people should start asking, if you're adopting a tool to that means another login, another dashboard, another database, another place that an agent has to check, and another system they have to remember to maintain. I wonder if that's really actually creating the leverage that they're looking to build. And so when I think about answering this question, I'm evaluating the technology around me for a couple of different things. Does it reduce steps? Does it eliminate duplicate work? Does it integrate with what we already use? And then, of course, will people actually adopt it? Because that's also key. When you bring in technology or you're removing technology, is how it impacts actual day-to-day use. And then most importantly, does it produce a meaningful business outcome? So the thing that I want to make sure that people think about is the technology nobody uses. It's not a tech solution, right? So focus on technology that eliminates work and not relocates it.
Fantastic. Brian.
Yeah, so for us, the biggest operational change, I guess, is when I've got involved with ninja selling, not to get onto that too much, but that really changed the way I thought about stuff. So our software, basically, I've tried to make sure it mirrors that thought process. So our biggest thing, much like Kindle, is it has to work together. So we decided to go with our guest, actually, Moxie, as far as our main CRM and programs. And then everything that we have done after that has been based on, does it work with Moxie? Can we do sync sign-ons? Do we have to recreate any will? But by and large, the software we bring in is software that we as an office help maintain and work on behalf of our clients or our agents so they can work with their clients. So we try not to add any additional steps for the agent and what they have to do. Their biggest thing is their database that comes in. We're Google company, so that comes in automatically and drops into the CRM. From there, we can do their auto postings to their social media. We can send out their newsletters, their email letters, their whatever that we do on their behalf. All we need to do is have them have their contacts, phone number, email address in their database, which just typically comes straight over from Google. So I agree with Kendall. It's big thing is about trying to make everything work together for the betterment of the agent, to where they're not getting burned out, having to go with three or four different programs and keeping up and having to change from one to the next to the next. Again, like I said, we going through an MLS consolidation right now. Having to go into multiple MLSs to set up the same search for the same clients. And then every time they want to make a change, you have to go make the change. Every time you want to do a price reduction, you've got to do that 3 or 4 times. So we tried to eliminate as much of that, because back to ninja selling, they've got a concept called Pi time. P time is everything you and a client in a contract. I time is all those things that pretty much require a contract to get you to P time, and E is everything else. It's not that everything else is not important. You have to do those things. But those are things that typically don't require a contract, but require time. And we try to take all that time stuff away from the agents so they can concentrate on the one thing that helps them do their production. Whether that's contacting with their agents, going out to meet for lunches, doing real estate reviews, whatever those activities are, we try to take the other stuff off so that A, we know it's being done, but B, it's being done well for them and they don't have to worry about it. So when they go into the listing presentation, they can say, yes, you will be on a billboard. Yes, all these things will be posted. Yes, these things will be done, because they know they don't have to do them. we will do them for them.
Great. Kendall, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that because something you said, Brian, made me think about a tangent topic as it relates to all of this, which is broker burnout. We have a call here full of brokers and leaders, and just thinking about how exhausting it must be for agents, how exhausting it is for us as leaders in the industry. You just mentioned, MLS consolidation. Like there's all these things happening that I think even the agent is dealing with, like the consumer challenges that are happening. Like Lennox, you mentioned the 4 million homes per year being sold and how it's just gotten so much more competitive for them. And then brokers have the added layer of not only managing their agent burnout and the stress of margins associated with owning a brokerage and running all these effective tools and resources and bringing all this value to agents, but then also feeling their own pressures and their own anxieties and their own life challenges, and not to mention all the industry layers. So, I just want to give a brief acknowledgement and shout out to all of the leaders listening here today. I see you, I hear you, and I feel your challenges. It's a lot to keep track of. And hopefully, as you find solutions for your agents, you also make sure to take care of yourself. So I'm looking at Dave's background. He's got hustle, grind, execution. I'm a Gen Xer. Those are all words I've used, but I have to say I'm almost 50 and I'm heading into this world of, I want a soft life now. I do not know if I want to hustle like I used to in my 30s and 40s, 20s, 30s and 40s. And I think I'm learning that from the millennials and the Gen Zs of today because they think like that. So I think that's another added pressure if we're an older generation and we expect execution and grind and hustle to look a particular way. And we're talking to agents and people who think about all of that very differently. So I just want to put that out there because that's an observation I'm having in this moment that I think is somewhat relevant to what we're talking about as well.
Well, it sure is. So for us at John L. Scott Real Estate, we are a company for successful brokers and top producers. We help each broker associate grow their business. We call them brokers here, agents nationwide. So we have another item is the vital few that drive revenues for real estate companies is selective recruiting and everyone productive. So a couple years ago, we took on the 80-20 rule. And we know the 80-20 rule is 20% implement, they get the vast majority of business. Well, what's flipping the 80-20 rule is we want to help 80% plus implement and be in the top 20% of the industry. And I'll just give you an example of one of those items. And we found the secret sauce of how to do this. Do it for them. And so let's just take on database for a second. We help implement the names into their database, the names and contact information. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen. I think I've seen stats nationwide, only 15% of agents across the nation have a database. Well, if you don't have a database, and as Brian talks, Ninja, you can't do business development activities, the most productive ones out there. And we know 80% of our listings come from someone we already know. And so you have to have a database so we know who each other are in our database. But then it sets the stage for personal engagement activities because that's where the business comes from, is being present. And so just flipping the 80-20 rule, our office leaders, our support team, and our service center team, we took this on for that one item for that. Okay, let's talk a little bit more technology. Technology is supposed to make agents more efficient, yet many feel overwhelmed. How do you evaluate which tools? We chat a little bit about this, and which ones are creating unnecessary complexity. So, Brian, do you want to take that one on first?
Yeah, and it just continues what you said is that we do it for them, and we we find ones that work with what we already have. Otherwise, you're not going to get somebody to sign into 4 or 5 different platforms to do the same thing and move contacts from one to the other. So right now, like I said, we use Moxie. So if it doesn't sink in or tie into Moxie, then we don't wind up using it. And there's a rule, that 85% perfect home, like you can make it perfect for you. You never, they've been building homes for the last however many thousands of years. They haven't made the perfect one yet for everybody. So you can go in and make a program work for you the way you need to, as long as it does the rest of it well. So we try to figure out, okay, well, we need something to do X, Y, and Z, but we need it to work within this hub. So what are the ones that work within this hub? And then how do we, as staff, make it work for the agents? How do we get it to where it needs to be for them, versus finding one that's perfect? Maybe it's an A plus, it does 100% of everything. But if it doesn't work with the ecosystem we already have, then it's just not going to work. We can spend all the money. The adoption's going to be 20% or less. So it's not worth it. You got to find stuff that works within yourself, which is to where, for me, finding suites that work well together, it's the obvious benefit.
Great observations. Kendall?
Well, I'm actually curious what Dave has to say about this, being a tech expert. What do you think?
Thank you, Kendall. Yeah, I think for us specifically in Moxworks, when we look at this topic and we think about agent burnout, we think about agent productivity. One of the things that that we've learned as a company is that the tools that really succeed and the tech companies succeed are the ones that don't require the brokerage to acquiesce to the product, but the product acquiesces to the brokerage. And what I mean by that is, if you hear Lennox and Brian and Kendall, you talk about the different philosophies. There's a couple different things, and no two brokerages work exactly alike. So the tech needs to be able to adapt for that. And I really put it into, for oversimplification, put it into 3 swim lanes, right? You've heard Brian and Lennox say, do it on behalf, do it on behalf. Yes, you need to be able to do it on behalf. And we're talking here today about agent burnout. And Kendall, I appreciate that you call it out, the brokerage and the leaders. The other cohort of people that's important to call out is the talented marketing coordinators behind the scene at these companies, and making sure that they're not burning out. So the tech needs to be able to allow you to do on behalf, but at scale in a way that makes the agents be able to be engaged without having to engage, but allows the marketing people to be able to scale their day and then not burn out as well, right? Swim lane number 2 is a lot of brokerages want to do for the agents, but stop slightly short of going all the way. So if you're thinking about a marketing campaign, not necessarily send it on their behalf, but have a tool where they can create it, they can put it in their account where all they have to do is hit send. You need to be able to do that. And I would say swim lane 3 is, there are a lot of brokerages that supply, a great tool. They don't necessarily want to do it on behalf. They don't even necessarily want to take them all the way to the 1 yard line, but they need a tool that the agents can easily use, but that they can trust will be brand compliant. And no matter which of these 3 swim lanes, the tech needs to be able to solve for it. Because Lennox, you mentioned a great 80-20 stat before, and an 80-20 stat that I think about all the time is 80% of people would work with their real estate agent again, but only 20% do. And the number one reason why that number is so small is they don't hear from the agent after the closing day. And good tech needs to, by any of those swim lanes, be able to accomplish that one way or the other at scale.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up, because I do believe there's 3 approaches, right? It's do it yourself, done for you, done with you, right? And that's, I think, exactly what you were describing here today. And I think what I would like for people to take away is that, for example, leverage doesn't look the same for every agent, right? And if you are an organization that you are going to have those 3 different types of agents that, Dave just described. And so do it yourself. You're going to have agents that want done with you and done for you. So some agents just want that complete control, and you have to be prepared for that. And then some want the brokers to get them 80% of the way there. And they'll personalize the rest of it. And then, of course, others want you to take it completely off their plate. And strong leadership, I think, designs for all 3 of those. So I agree with that.
So for our technology, we focus, what gets to the front of the line is anything marketing or relationship database. Those get to the front of the line, and yes, all the background items get done there. Because we want our broker associates to focus right now in the industry: consultation, personal representation, and negotiation. We see those as our three major value items that we put out there for our consumers. So let's take the other item on technology. Is we only take on new technology is if we can embed it into the company. We take on the training with our support team, our leadership team, and then we together work with our broker associates to use the programs. Otherwise, they don't get any usage. So if you're not going to take it on, that it's your program, it's just not going to happen, and that's what we see. So very, very exciting out there. Okay, this next question: how do you encourage high performance while also creating healthy boundaries that help agents avoid working 24/7? And I think, Kendall, you're up first on this one.
Okay. Well, I think it starts with diagnosing the problem. There's a statement I keep hearing lately, which is it is malpractice to write a prescription without a diagnosis. And a lot of real estate professionals, a lot of brokers, a lot of people will come to you with symptoms, and then we skip over the diagnoses and right into prescription, right? And so I want to not do that today. So what I think about is, you talk a lot, Lennox, about mantras. My mantra this year is the pipeline is the business. And right now, so many real estate professionals are on what I refer to, like there's two big challenges they're having. The first one is the 30-day transaction treadmill, which is what many of them are doing, which is causing the burnout. They're looking for their today business. They're hustling for, how do I find a transaction that's going to close in the next 30 to 90 days? And that creates exhaustion. It leads to the burnout. It leads to lots of activity. And I love the metaphor of the treadmill, because when you think about it, when you're running on a treadmill, it's recording activity, but in reality, you're going nowhere, right? When you get off the treadmill, you're in the same place that you were in when you started. So, I would say number one is making sure if your agents are on that 30-day transaction treadmill, that you help them get off of it. And how do we get off of it? Is we focus on, instead of today business, I refer to focus on tomorrow business, what I would call long-term pipeline business. And the reason why I say that is, instead of looking for the business that's going to close in the next 90 days, look for the business that's going to close anywhere from, 90 to 18 months. And the reason why is because tomorrow always comes, right? Tomorrow always comes. And how much more peace would you feel as a real estate professional knowing that in 6 months, I have 10 clients that are going to transact in 10 months, in about 10 months, right? So it's like, if we can get them focused on the right things, I think that would really help. The other thing that I think is important that agents are doing, the other diagnoses, is they're posting into the social media void. A lot of agents will claim that 90% of my business comes from social media. And that might be true for like 1% of real estate professionals, but that's not true for the majority of them, right? And social media is designed to work best with agents with sphere of influence, things of that nature. And so agents spend so much time trying to find new business there, i.e., go viral or find all these strangers to do transactions with, when really they should be focused on the people that already know, like, and trust them in that space, because that's really what it's designed to do. If you look at Meta statistics, Meta doesn't announce a lot of numbers, but a few numbers have slipped through the cracks, which is like 3.5 billion with a B active users across their platforms. 100 and I think it was like 40 billion shares of reels happen every single day. I mean, if you're posting right now on social media, you're not focused on the who you're trying to engage with, and you're trying to find everyone, i.e., if you market to everyone, you market to no one, you're wasting time and energy, and you're missing a valuable piece of what social media really is designed to do, which is keep you better connected to your database. So I would say, find those gaps that your agents are missing in their business, where they're wasting time or focused energy is on what I'll refer to as the wrong activities, and get them realigned on what should be the right activities in their business. That was a long answer, but I feel like I need
I
to
got
put
it.
that on there.
Thank you. Brian, what are you doing to set up your infrastructure to so agents aren't working 24/7? Activities.
Well, I'm bad at this because I'm here a lot, but we do preach ninja selling, which I can see that behind you there in the corner. Which they do tell you to split your day into two, where half the day you're working on your business, kind of like Kendall said, you're working on the activities that are going to generate your business 6 months to a year from now, and then the second half of the day you're working in your business. You're working on those things that are in your 30 to 60 day treadmill that she said. And we encourage that, we coach it. That's how we try to get all the agents to set up their days and their weeks, and we try to help them to do that by taking those extra things off, like we talked about before. There's things that they know that have to be done, but they didn't get into this to be a software guru to figure out how to get something written to where it would send out X amount of things for them. They didn't sign up to learn how to set up Blotto to be able to do X amount of postings for them. That's why we take that stuff on. We don't require them to be the Jack and Jill of all trades. We really just try to line it down to where it's them and their sphere of influence and the people that they know, love, and trust, that they want to work with, that hopefully already know, love, and trust them. Spend your time working with them to pick up their business and their referrals. Show them enough value on the activities you do through the year, whether that's real estate reviews. We're a big believer in Lolo. So we do Lolo to give out, free items throughout the months to our clients and our sphere of influence. It's just those activities that we try to help them do to get their auto touches in on a monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis.
All right. Well, I'm going to go into the next question. I'm going to take the lead on this one. So support staff and centralized services have become increasingly important. Which tasks should agents no longer be handling themselves? And how do you determine where to invest in additional support? Well, we've taken on the approach at the company, John L. Scott teams everyone. And so we've set up the infrastructure for services that they can transact with on a per transaction basis, such as transaction coordinators. And this works for our top producers as well as our new broker associates. So they handle the whole transaction process. And I'm glad it doesn't take 35, 40 days to get the transaction process complete anymore. It's more that 10 or so days, and move-in date is after that. But they, for that experienced broker, they can then, if they're going to hire an assistant, many of their personal assistants still use a transaction coordinator on a per transaction fee, because that frees up the personal assistant to help do business development activities, to focus in on what's important, their database and engagement with their database. Also, marketing services has really come up over the last couple of years. As Kendall was saying, that online marketing is so important. And many of our broker associates just don't have the aptitude for that, but they can hire that on a per transaction basis. And then with buyers, we're working with our mortgage company to fully underwrite buyers ahead of time. It creates more buyer certainty and seller certainty that they're capable to buy the home. And it also shrinks down the time on the transaction process. So we're trying to free up our broker associates with some of these items and create the infrastructure so that they can be a single broker, but be like a team because they have the people working for them. Who would like to take this on next?
And for us, our support staff, kind of like we talked about, it's already built in. We have one lady who does all the listing input. Does every agent have her do all the listing input? No, some want to do it themselves, but the vast majority of the agents use her. That's safe for us from a compliance standpoint because everything is done correctly. We have one person who does mostly marketing. Again, she does that for all the agents. They can call in and say, hey, I need this or that, change this billboard, I need this post or whatever. That's kind of what her job is. Again, It allows us to make sure it follows our state rules, which are very specific, and we have a consistency across the board. We have one person that helps on the software as far as sending out emails, campaigns, or whatever. They come in, they mark their clients as buyers, sellers, whatever they need to, and through ActiPipe, certain things go out. The new version Rise, that's got social media built into its hierarchy of actions. We currently use Paradigm as well. That takes on a lot of the social media posting for agents, either just their listings and or other posts. We do a lot of those posts for them. So that's kind of how we handle it. I mean, it's a 3-person staff. We've got 50 agents. Maybe it's a little bit overstaffed or understaffed, depending on somebody. But we, between that and then the 2 brokers, myself and Robert, we are able to kind of handle all those things to allow the agent to go work on their sphere and do the things that they do best.
Great. Kendall.
So I would say when it comes to staffing and preparing for what your agents need, it really just also depends on what the value proposition that your brokerage is offering to your agents, right? Some agents, like I said, do it yourself, done with you or done for you. They're looking for different things. So as a broker, you have to also manage your bottom line, your revenues, because I do recognize like that's probably one of the biggest challenges of being a broker is not being broker than your agents. And so you want to build a profitable business that is sustainable and efficient. So if I could give a piece of advice to the brokers on the call here today, when you're thinking about bringing value to your agents, if you already have an established value proposition that you've attracted and recruited agents to, I would go to your existing agents and find out what are the reoccurring tasks that they have that doesn't require their decision, their license, or their personal relationships. And is there something that you can do for them to take that off their plate? If that is, and then also ask them, is that something they want? Because I think at the end of the day, it's this kind of concept is really going to need to be personalized from broker to broker. There are some brokers who are super hands-on in other ways and some who provide a lot of tech support or system support. But really, I think it comes down to if you're an existing brokerage with an existing value proposition, go back to your agents, find out what they need and what they would like for you to do differently, and then build systems around that. And make sure you don't take on things that are going to be overly they're going to just be too much, right, for you and the system and the structure that you have. If you run a lean, mean machine, you might not be built to take on a bunch of additional tasks. But if you can leverage AI and you can leverage inexpensive labor, i.e., virtual assistants in the Philippines or something along those lines, to take these very repetitive, reoccurring tasks off the plate of the agent, it might be worth investing in. But if not, then I would double down on what you did offer them, which is, I'm sure, relationship, trust, and best case strategies, things of that nature. Because a lot of agents hire their brokers for their brains, not for all the other things that they do for them. So what broker are you? And then go back to the agents and double down on that.
Right.
Well, Lennox, is it okay if I had one point on? Because this is a very interesting question you hit on. And one thing that I think is important to call out is for the people listening on the call, when you're thinking about these solutions and you're looking at technology and different options, because there's a lot of them, one of the things you want to look for is the support models themselves, because just hearing your different responses and conscious that there's brokerages of all sizes listening in today, when you look at these companies, you want to make sure that their support model fits your brokerage. And I think it's important that as tech companies, that's one of the most critical things when you're setting up your structure is you're going to have, companies very much like, the way Lennox, you described yours, and Brian, yours, where you're taking a lot of that lift for the agents. And in those instances, it's about training the trainers and supporting the trainers, enabling you, because you really like to be the front lines for your agents. But with a lot of the smaller companies, and, we support, companies where we have large clients with over 100,000 agents, and we support, 10 agent brokerages and small teams. And when you look at the latter of those two, they don't necessarily have staff. and they don't necessarily have an internal support team. So when you're shopping your tech, make sure that tech is able to adapt and service your support model no matter what it is.
Well, that's fantastic. And Dave, I want to stick with you here. Um, uh, and I want to thank you for being our sponsor for today's program. Do you want to expand this a little bit about what's going on at MoxieWorks?
Yeah, at MoxieWorks, everything that we are doing is laser focused on making the agents more productive and doing it in a way that they can be automated, but very personal, and doing it in a way, like I mentioned earlier, that it can be done for them, it can be leading them to water, or they can be doing it themselves, but in a way that is very simple. Because if it's anything other than simple, I think we all know, right? The agents just won't do it. I just want to say on a personal level, thank you for allowing us to be here, and thank you for everyone that joined us today, and thanks RISMedia for having me and for having all of us, and to Kendall, to you, and to Brian for the amazing insights. I think for myself, one of the biggest takeaways today is agent productivity isn't about asking people to do more. It's about the right environment, the systems and support to help them do their best work. And that's something we're very focused on at MoxieWorks. It's the core of our products. So if anything that we discussed today resonated at these challenges or things that you're seeing inside of your own brokerage, and you want to just have a really, really good conversation about what it could look like to solve for those things, we'd love to continue the conversation. So if you scan the QR code in the bottom right, we would love to connect you with our team and have a more detailed conversation.
Well, fabulous. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
Okay, we have time for a rapid question here. What are you focused on right now in this current market? And rapid response. Kendall.
No agent left behind, or no agent gets left behind with a consistent pipeline.
Brian.
And I know you said rapid. Are you talking about this market or this time as far as tap?
In the market.
We're just constant support, checking in, doing whatever we can do to help the agents. Like everybody said, every agent's different. Their business is slightly different. It's just trying to plug in what tools we have to, what gap they have.
Fabulous. So we're focused in on the seasons. We break the year into 6 seasons. Right now we're in summer. Fall's coming up, just 15 days away or 13 days away or so. So what are the personal engagement activities in the fall, and then what in the winter? Because we know 80% of our business comes from a recent personal engagement of some type. Not that they just know my name, it's I'm present with them. Reciprocity happens, trust. I look out for them, they look out for me. And that is our number one focus to outperform the market. Well, I just want to say thank you to all three, Kendall, Brian, and Dave, for being on the webinar today. Great information. I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go. Just all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you.